Hello and welcome. This is a recording for lesson 1.5, dividing whole numbers. This lesson is part of Math 020 pre-algebra course taught at St. Louis Community College. The recording is made by Dr. Victoria Shearing. In this lesson, we are going to look at the division properties of division of whole numbers and then learn how to divide whole numbers and practice with several problems. So let's go ahead and start with the review of properties of division. Division properties of zero is probably one of the fundamental things in math because it touches up upon the concept that not everything is possible in math. So we have two cases, we have two scenarios. There are certain things that you can do and the certain things you cannot. So in the category of the things that you can do is that you can divide a number into a zero. So 0 divided by a number equals 0. So you can do that. So what would it look like? It would look like, let's say, 0 divided by 9 or 0 over 3. So those are acceptable. So 0, you can't divide number into a 0. When I switch around and say you cannot, okay, divide a 0 into a number. So if I switch that order around and say a divided by 0, you cannot do that. And it is undefined. So as an example, we're going to say the same. 9 divided by 0 is undefined. There is no answer. If you try to put it on the calculator, your calculator will give you an error message because there is no such thing as dividing by a 0. You can divide a 0 by a number. That is allowed, but you cannot divide a number by a 0. So make sure that you understand the difference. So the language of division, again, I want to highlight what we call the result of the division. We call that that number quotient. And then you do divided by and divided into. So the by and into, divided by and divided into, you have to be very careful when you're reading those because that will determine the order of numbers that they come in. If you say 12 divided by 4, the numbers are coming in just as you mentioned them, 12 divided by 4 in the example. But if you do 4 divided into 12, notice how the words have changed. The problem is still 12 divided by 4 because the words have been switched. It's very similar to subtracted from, and now we have divided into, when we know we have to switch the order of numbers. And then the last one is the quotient of 12 and 4. So you're basically going to look at these two numbers, and it's still 12 divided by 4. What we're looking for is the answer to that one. All right, so to divide whole numbers, you have these 7 simple rules. Right. I will let you read those rules on your own. Let's see what we need to do. The reason why division is so difficult for some students, or challenging, let's put it that way. The reason why division is more challenging than other operations is because we're strictly not using division, we're using multiplication and subtraction in there to work from partial answers to the entire answer. So in the first 2 steps, you are going to set up your problem. Okay. And then through the series of step 2, 3, and 5, 3, 4, and 5 will get repeated as many times as needed, so you can Steps 3, 4, and 5 will repeat as many times as you need it until you reach the 0 to get the answer. So 3, 4, 5 repeated. Okay. And then step number 7 is checking your answer. So you would be multiplying quotient times the divisor to get the original number. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the first example. We have a few division problems to do. So let's go ahead and start with 85 divided by 5. So we are going to set up the long division. So the setup starts with the long division symbol, which looks like you know, the rectangle with some parts missing. So the first number, 85, goes inside what I call a house, because you have the wall and you have a roof on top of 85. So the second number goes outside. So this is the 85 is number being divided, and the 5 is number being divided by. So we need to know how many times 5 goes into 85. We can look at the multiplication table, we can estimate, but eventually the numbers will get more complicated and longer. So we still have to go through the process. So we're going to look at the 5, and we're going to grab the first digit out of 85. So, and ask ourselves, how many times does 5 goes into 8? So starting with the leftmost digit of the number being divided, see if your divisor is actually going into that digit. Yes, it does, because 5 times 1 would give me 5. So 5 times 1 would give me 5. And now I know that 5 goes into 8 one times, because 5 times 1 is 5. Now I'm going to subtract. Once I figure it out, I need to find what is left over, the remainder. Okay, so 8 minus 5 is a 3. Okay, so 5 goes into 8 one time with the remainder 3. So I can bring the next digit now, and now look at the 35. And then 5 goes into 35 exactly 7 times. So I can write the second part of that answer. All right, and then subtract 35 just to verify that we are done, because there is no more remainders. Okay, so how do you know that you solved the problem, that you are done multiplying? So that means you run out of digits. We use the 8 and we use the 5. Use the 8 first and then 5 as part of the 35. So we used all the digits in the number being divided. And then once we used all the digits, we got the 0. So the answer is 85 divided by 5 gives you 17. So the next problem is already set for us. 640, and you have the 8. Okay, so we're going to repeat the same process again. So we're going to look at 8 and we're going to look at the 6. So, well, 8 does not go into 6. So that means, mathematically speaking, 8 goes into 6 0 times. But we don't do leading zeros, because if I have to write a number 2, it's the same as 0, 2, the same as 0, 0, 2. It does not make any difference. It's still going to be a 2. So conventionally, we do not write leading zeros. But I wanted to point out that if the number does not go into the first digit, the answer is 0. So what we're going to do is I'm going to get rid of that 0. I don't need it. And now I'm going to look at 64. Does 8 go into 64? It does. It goes 8 times. So 8 times 8, 64. When you subtract, you get a 0. You haven't finished. Even though you did get the 0 as the remainder, you still have not finished, because you have not run out of digits of the number being divided. So we're going to bring that 0 down, and 8 goes into 0 0 times. And now you got your answer. You run out of digits, you used all the digits of the number being divided, and you got the 0 at the end. So 64 divided by 8 gives you 80. So let's move on, keep working. So find the quotient of 94 and 7. So 94, 7. And we do the same thing. So all it is, it's pretty simple problem here. I just wanted to make sure you understand how to write it. So you have the quotient, so that means you're dividing of 94 and 7. 94 is the first number, and the first number always goes inside the long division symbol. So 7 goes into 9 one time. Then you do 7 times 1 is a 7. So subtract, you have 2 left over. Bring the next digit down, and that's a 4. So 7 does go into 24, but not quite. So 7, I know 7 times 3 is 21. So I know that 7 goes into 24 3 times, and I will get 21 if I multiply 7 times 3. And then when I subtract, I have 3 left over. I don't have any more whole digits. I'm not doing decimal division, not in this unit. So what I'm going to do is my division is done. I got 13, and now I need to account for these 3 extra digits. So remainder 3. That's how you're going to be answering those questions. So in this unit, the division will have remainders. So we will have the whole part and the remainder part. And you will get that remainder with the last after you run out of the digits and see. If it's a 0, we don't write the remainder 0. If it's anything other than 0, you're going to put the remainder in that number. So let's move on. The next problem. 3017 divided, 2016 divided by 42. Okay. So now we're looking at the double-digit number. It gets a little bit more complicated, but remember when we talked about the rounding, right? So what I'm looking for, not really 42, I'm looking like at about 40. And so 42 or 40 does not go into 2 or 20, but probably will go as 201, right? I know if I had 40 and the 200, I would go for 5. So, but if I do 42 times 5, 2 times 5 is 10, 4 times 5 is 100, so that would be 210. So I would overshoot it. So I have 201, but 42 times 5 is 210. So I'm going to use 4 because I know 5 is too much. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at that 4. So 42 times 4, that's an 8, 168. So it's still less than 201, so I can use the 4. Everything's good so far. All right, so 168. And then I will subtract it, and I will get 3 and 3. So that's the second check for common sense here. Like you got 33 less than 42, so yes, you did everything correctly. If you get 43 here instead of 42, that means you picked too small of a number. Okay, so now let's go ahead and bring the 6 down. And let's think about how many times 42 goes into 336. So if I were looking at 40 and 300, I might have gone for maybe 8. So let's double check the 8. So 42 times 8, 2 times 8 is 16, 4 times 8 is 32, 336. So you got the 8, 336. You subtract, got a 0. Out of digits, 0 at the end, 48 is your answer. Okay. All right. So, and then we're going to do the last one, 3017 divided by 5. So that one is a tricky one. So make sure that you're paying attention to the way I'm working this problem. So part E. So let's set it up. 3017, the first number or the number on top goes inside the long division, divided by 5. Okay. So let me make sure that this is the house so you don't look at that and accidentally think it's the 1. Okay, so 5 doesn't go into 3, but 5 does go into 30 6 times. So I'm good here. All right, so 30 minus 30 is a 0, but I can't stop yet because I still have digits left over in the number being divided by. So I'm going to bring the 1 down. Okay, so when I bring the 1 down, 5 does not go into 1. So I am going to record a 0 here because 5 goes into 1 0 times. Remember in our first problem when we said that 5, no, that was not it. On the second problem, when we said 8 does not go into 6, and I made a point, I'm putting a 0 there. And then I told you that 0 is not needed there. The 0 here in the middle of the number, absolutely needed. So that's how you indicate that 5 does not go into 1. So you put the 0, so, and then bring the 7 down. 5 does go into 17 3 times. So you will have 15 here, subtract, get 2. Double check, you have no more digits to bring. So you are done with your division. There's nothing else for you to do other than just say remainder 2. Okay. Some of you may have to watch this problem a couple of times. Make sure that you go back to the recording if you need to understand it again. All right, 2 more problems and then we are pretty much done with this lesson. An automobile dealer has ordered 120 new cars for the beginning of the model year. If the delivery rig holds 9 cars, how many loads will it take to deliver all the new cars? Okay, so they spell the 9 cars, which is tricky. So let's go ahead and divide 120 new cars by 9. So 120 divided by 9. 9 does not go into 1. We don't need to write that 0. We're just going to move on the second digit. 9 goes into 12 one time. So that's a 9. And then 3. And then bring the 0 down. So we're going to get 13, 27. And then you have 3 over. So that's remainder 3. So you would have 13 trucks. And then you would still have 3 cars left over. So even though math answer is 13 remainder 3, common sense answer, which is the right answer, because you know that you're not going to bring 120 cars if you only send 13 trucks. The last truck will have 3 cars, 14. Okay, because it is asking you how many loads will it take to deliver all the new cars, and that will be 14 loads. 13 completed loads plus 1 extra that would only carry 3 cars. Okay. So last part. 8 people are to share equally in an inheritance of $84,480. How much money will each person receive? Okay, so just need to divide. So 84 or 80 dividing among 8 people. So dividing by 8. So 8 goes into 8 one time. Yay, we're good. Bring 4 down. 8 does not go into 4, so put a 0 there. Bring 4 down. 8 goes into 44 6 times. 42. Okay, so bring 2 down. 8 doesn't go into 2. Oh yeah, that's the remainder. 28. 8 goes into 28 3 times. 24. And then you got 4 and 40. And 8 goes into 45 times, and that would give you a 0. 10,635. That concludes our lesson. Thank you for watching and have a great day.